welcome to Breckland District Council's council meeting for March 28th, 2024. Julie, could I ask you to start the recording and live streaming, please? We're running. Okay, thank you. Julie, could I invite you to do the roll call, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Anscombe, Councillor Ashby, Councillor Askew, Councillor Atterwill, Councillor Bambridge, Councillor Bate, Councillor Annie Blackburn, Councillor David Blackburn, Councillor Borrett, Councillor Bowes, Councillor Brindle, Councillor Marion Chapman-Allen, Councillor Sam Chapman-Allen, Councillor Clark, Councillor Clausen, Councillor Cogman, Councillor Cowan, Councillor Crane, Councillor Duffield, Councillor Eagle, Councillor Fraser, Councillor Gilbert, Councillor Harvey, Councillor Hewitt, Councillor Jeremy, Councillor Kiddell, Councillor Kiddle-Morris, Councillor Kybird, Councillor Land, Councillor McCambridge, Councillor Monument, Councillor Morton, Councillor Nunn, Councillor O'Callaghan, Councillor Oliver, Councillor Plummer, Councillor Richmond, Councillor Sherwood, Councillor Suggett, Councillor Samantha Taylor, Councillor Sarah Taylor, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Terry, Councillor Turner, Councillor Webb, Councillor Wickerson, Councillor Wilkin, and Councillor Wilkinson.
Apologies, please, Julie.
Thank you, Chairman. I have apologies from Councillor Askew, Councillor Bate, Councillor Annie Blackburn, Councillor Sam Chapman-Allen, Councillor Kiddell, Councillor McCambridge, and Councillor Sherwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got apologies from Councillor Rodri Oliver, Councillor Richard Duffield, Councillor Marion Chapman-Allen, Councillor William Nunn, and Councillor Nigel Wilkin.
I had a list of apologies, but I've got Councillor Sherwood.
Item 2 on the agenda, the minutes. Are members happy to agree the minutes from the meeting held on the 22nd of February 2024, where you can find them in your agenda pack on pages 4 to 32? Agreed. Thank you. I'll sign them through record. Thank you, Julie. Item 3. Declarations of interest. Can I ask members if they have any declarations of interest under this disclosable preliminary interest set out in Chapter 7 of the Localism Act 2011? We have none. Okay, thank you. Item 4, Chairman's announcements. Right, here we go. Lovely. I'd just like to thank everybody who attended the civic reception on last Friday. It was an excellent reception from the correspondence and cards I've had through the post from other councils and their chairman. I think I did achieve the Carlsberg reception I wanted. So that was really, really good. Everybody really enjoyed themselves. And obviously I'd like to say again in person, thank the Dems team for giving up their time on Friday evening, and particularly to Teresa and Finlay, who brought it all together. And actually Finlay, I don't know how he did it, Terry, but he brought a Fortnum and Mason's hamper. That was one of the prizes from the raffle. So, yeah, power to the young man's elbow. It's very good, thank you. And of course, mustn't forget Phil Sherwood, one of our hard-working housing officers, for hosting the evening. The man has got absolute talents. You know, quizmaster, master of ceremonies, brilliant. And I hope he enjoyed his bottle I bought for him to say thank you. Okay, right, Helen and Councillor Crane and I, we joined the award-winning Dereham Litter Pickers group on Saturday, which was a part of the Keep Britain Tidy launch. Just to say thank you to those guys again. They do a fantastic job across that, you know, across Dereham, and the bags of stuff we collected is unreal. Every other week, there's litter there. I just wish people would just, you know, educate themselves and just take their litter home. It's not doing the environment or wildlife any good at all. I'd also like to thank part of the Breckland 50th anniversary celebration. The staff had a baking day yesterday, bring a cake into work, and they sold the cakes, and they made £107, which they kindly donated to my charities. So I really appreciate the support from officers and the staff, you know, from Breckland this last year. That's not only yesterday, but there was the walk, the prize, the raffle they had at their awards evening. That funding is really going to help my charities. So really, thank you very much. And on the anniversary, for members and officers, we're holding a little celebration on the 2nd of April, just to remind you again, at 5 o'clock in the social zone upstairs. Love to see you all here, just to, you know, to join us all together and listen to the history of how Breckland Council was procured. So I think that's my announcements. Thank you. Okay, excuse me. Item 5, the leader's announcement. I'd like to now invite our Deputy Leader of the Council, Councillor Sarah Suggett, to make her announcements on behalf of the Leader, Councillor Sam Chapman-Allen.
Thank you, Chairman, for allowing me to give the update on behalf of the Leader today, and good morning, everybody. The first really exciting point I would like to touch on is something which is close to Sam's heart, and I know he would be desperately keen to be explaining this to you himself this morning, but unfortunately he is unavailable to be here. But the fantastic news that Thetford is going to benefit from one of the most single biggest allocations of funding made to the district in recent years, as a selected town within the government's new flagship long-term Plan for Towns programme. This is an amazing opportunity for us to help make a once-in-a-generation set of changes to the town, which is now being nationally recognised for its opportunity. I'd like to put on record my thanks, along with those of the Leader, to all of those who've been involved in recent years in helping position Thetford to receive this. Whether it's through your direct lobbying, participation in work like Future Breckland, or through the delivery of all the fantastic community and business work in the town at the moment. I know members will be very keen to get into the detail, particularly around what this means, where it might be spent and who might involve. And I promise we will be picking this up as soon as we are able, and we are working with government on the rules of the guidance for Thetford at the moment. And I'd just like to make the observation that whilst this focuses spend on just one part of the district, we sincerely hope and expect the benefits will be felt much wider. We see this as the start of proving the case that Breckland needs and can make good use of investment. And so the challenge is on the other 4 market towns, and we also know that given how strong ties are across the district economy, there will be really positive ripples throughout. Of course, Thetford isn't the only Breckland town to benefit from recent investment recently. After 4 hugely successful years, I'm delighted that the High Street Heritage Action Zone work in Swaffham is set to continue for a further 3 years, with a budget of around £1 million secured from Historic England and the National Lottery Heritage Fund. The scheme has already seen restoration of Swaffham's iconic assembly rooms, repair of 3 heritage shop fronts and high street improvements, including new benches, soft landscaping and enhanced signage and wayfinding. Our work in the town, alongside Historic England, Swaffham Town Council and the Swaffham Cultural Consortium, has highlighted the incredible power of collaboration and partnership, and as a result has enabled us to secure this major new investment in heritage, culture and for the town as a whole. Going forward, we expect the partnership to revitalise around 10 more historic buildings, breathing new life into the heart of the town, while the grant scheme will empower more local businesses to reclaim key historic features, ensuring that Swaffham's High Street remains a source of pride for generations to come. Our collaborative approach in Swaffham has been so successful that I am confident that it can be used as a blueprint for partnership working across other areas of the district and help us to secure even more funding for Breckland. And on the subject of inward investment, in Dereham, I'm delighted to announce that we have been successful in securing more than £250,000 to make our leisure centre in the town more efficient. The funding from Sports England will enable solar panels to be installed, helping to meet the building's electricity needs and reducing the building's carbon emissions by as much as 47 tonnes per year. As a council, members will be aware that we had intended to fund this important project as part of our commitments to cutting our carbon footprint. But it is fantastic news that we have instead been able to lever in national funding, releasing local money back into our council's budget, which will help us maintain our relatively strong financial position and continue to provide not only core services, but also go above and beyond by funding the extra services that our residents have said make such a difference to our lives. And finally, Chairman, after winning the prestigious Health and Social Care Award at the Local Government Chronicles Award last year, I'm delighted that this award-winning council is in the running for 2 more national awards. We have been selected as a finalist in the Community Engagement category of the Municipal Journal Awards 2024. It is in recognition of our future Breckland work to build a series of interlinked plans for each of our towns, which are directly informed by feedback from residents and our partners. A huge congratulations to the team of officers and members who have been involved in the project, and of course a big thank you to the many residents and stakeholders who supported the project by sharing their views and helping to shape our district together. But that is not the only award we are in the running for. Our very own Chief Executive, Maxine, has been shortlisted as just one of 4 finalists in the Chief Executive of the Year category at the MJ Awards. And I'm sure members will agree that under Max's stewardship, Breckland Council comes on leaps and bounds, and much of what we have achieved over the last couple of years and the fantastically supportive and forward-looking culture that is in place at Breckland is a very large part down to Maxine's leadership. I'm sure you'll join me in congratulating Maxine for reaching the final of this very competitive and prestigious category, and we wish her all the very best when the winners are announced in June. Yeah. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Sarah. And that last piece was very surprising, really great news. And all the best, Maxine, for that. I'll vote for you. Okay, item 6 on the agenda, questions on notice understanding order number 6. There was one question, and that had a full response in writing to the questionnaire. Item 7, questions without notice. Questions are to be directed at the Deputy Leader, Relevant Portfolio Holder or a Committee Chairman. We have 30 minutes for this.
I'll start with Councillor Clark.
For this session. I'll start with the main leader of the opposition, Councillor Clark, please.
Thank you, Chairman, and can I thank also the Deputy Leader and yourself for the different bits of good news, and obviously wish the Chief Exec all the very best in the final. My question is directed to the portfolio holder for finance. That may well apply to other people. At the last full council, the opposition group raised the need for the Household Support Fund to continue, and we know that the leadership here has also been pressing for that behind the scenes. We're very pleased it has been extended. Now, this is only for a further 6 months, so there will be a cliff edge at the end around September. Will Breckland potentially plan an autumn budget or autumn fiscal event, like the Chancellor, to help families cope? Because as the Chancellor has remarked, in his constituency, apparently some folk on 100,000 a year are struggling, which is a little bit more possibly than the average wage in Breckland. Obviously, we wish everyone was getting that. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. Well, Striped Shirt Brigade. Someone has to look the part, don't we? So you asked a very pertinent question, and I'm very, very pleased to be able to say, hopefully, a lot of our lobbying with colleagues in Westminster has paid off in the short term, at least, certainly into the medium term with 6 months. And as far as I'm aware, we're not giving up. We are still continuing to press the case to support people who are vulnerable in society, not just here in Breckland, because it's the right and proper thing that we should do. I'm not quite sure we got some feedback.
Yeah, it's been kind of a minute. Okay.
All right, we're back on track. As to whether or not we plan a 6-month time autumn fiscal event, I honestly can't say. Just agreed time. We've only just agreed our budget for the year ahead. The budget is pretty robust, and as you've heard in the leaders' announcements, there have been significant funding streams coming towards us, which we need to understand to, I hope, look a little bit more closer at that. But while I'm talking, I just would like to say that I can remember sitting in this chamber not long after I was elected, so that's 20 years ago now, and pointing out how important Thetford was to this district. And I'm really pleased that the government have recognised at long last that Thetford is a significant part of Norfolk. It's the gateway to Norfolk. It's frankly the gateway to Breckland, and it's the 4th largest town we have in the county. So I'm absolutely delighted that we've levered in this funding, and with our officers, I'm sure we'll be able to generate significantly more finance to support the growth and success of that town going forward. It deserves it. It really does deserve it. It's the economic engine of Breckland, and the ripples out of Thetford will be felt in the other 4 market towns, I'm absolutely sure. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Atterbull, I'll invite you to your question, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Before I ask my question, could you just indulge me? Would you join me in sending this council's best wishes to the Princess of Wales for a speedy recovery? As you may know, she's the Colonel-in-Chief of the 1st Queen's Dragoon Guards based at Swanton Morley. I'm sure this council will join me in wishing her a speedy recovery, and she's back in public life as soon as possible.
I'll just take that on, Council. I will, yes, I have. I did send a personal message through social media, but and I think we've written a letter as well from this council. So, but thank you for that.
My question's for Councillor Hewitt, if I may. Paul, I was fortunate enough to be in the village of Colkirk the other evening and had a good look round the Breckland Bridge site which is there. Last month I asked about the future of the site after the main contractor had gone into liquidation, I believe, and you said that you wrote to me and you said a new contractor will be appointed before the end of March. Can you please confirm if this has happened and when are they expected to start? And also, can you confirm to me in writing if all of the off-site highway improvement work has been carried out in accordance with Norfolk County Council's requirements?
Thank you, Councillor. I can confirm that the process has commenced in March to secure an alternative contractor. with anticipated work starting later in 2024. I cannot give the date at the moment because we're still in the final elements of the negotiation. I will get back to you in terms of the Norfolk County Council highways elements. As to the best of my knowledge and belief, the answer is yes, but I will confirm that to you in writing.
Thank you, Councillor. Can I ask Councillor Terry Land for his question, please?
Thank you, Chair. This question was supposed to be for the Chair of Planning, Councillor Wilkin, but I notice he's not here today. So I assume it would be to his deputy, who I believe is you. Is that right? My question is this. I'm aware the outline planning for the Abbey State infill is imminent. Can residents be assured the planning committee, by the planning committee that will discuss this proposal, that it will be held in Thetford? Thank you.
Thank you. I will ask the lead from our planning department, Simon, if you'd be happy to answer that question, would you?
I have no issue picking up with the services and with the chairman of the planning committee to see where that should be held. We held predictably accepted before, just to make sure that there's a suitable venue. But I think that's a few months away, but quite happy with that. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So we'll all get information on that on that situation. Thank you. Councillor Sarah Taylor, your question, please.
Thank you, Chair. This question is directed towards Councillor Hewitt. Thank you for your response, which I read with interest to my question on notice. So back in 2012, alongside the Social Value Act, PPN 1012 was published, which stated, demand for core public services will increase significantly over the next few years in a time of reduced funding. Increasingly, commissioners will need to identify better targeted, more innovative and radical service delivery solutions to meet this demand. In these tight economic times, it is particularly important that maximum value in public spending is achieved. However, currently some commissioners miss opportunities to seize both the best price and meet the wider social, economic and environmental needs of the community. So 12 years after that was written, Breckland is still missing these opportunities. I would estimate cautiously that we've missed out on investment of at least £3 million over the past 6 years because we don't incorporate social value overtly into our contracts. I'm absolutely certain that this can be fixed quickly and at very low cost. I try to maintain separation of my professional and political life, but I can't stand by while people across Breckland lose out on millions. I've asked informally before, via the leader. Now formally, will you meet with me to discuss this so we can ensure the council can deliver much better value going forward? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor, for your question. As I outlined in my response to you earlier on, particularly in relation to your question, you've now kind of widened the remit slightly. A blanket 10% social value target will harm rather than help a lot of our smaller businesses, especially if that target is applied by a policy, a process, procurement policy note 0620, that currently local authorities sit outside of the scope of. We do already, as I mentioned in my response to you, incorporate social value principles within our procurement process, and we are in dialogue with the social value portal. With respect, Councillor, I think that all members are entitled to express a view and to promote a cause that might be professional or otherwise, in terms of speaking on issues that perhaps wider than what we actually see, and certainly wider remit than this chamber currently allows, especially if there are personal ambitions of a perhaps political nature for elections that are coming up later in the year. I do not believe, Councillor, that the Breckland taxpayer should pay for that.
Thank you. Councillor David Blackburn, your question, please.
Thank you. I think this is for Councillor Ashby. We had a lovely presentation from Citizens Advice regarding the work they do with vulnerable people, especially around debt and the amount of money they help to write off for some of the most vulnerable people. Would you consider looking at a funded welfare rights post to help people
claim the benefits that are so significantly unclaimed, especially attendance allowance, PIP, various disability benefits that get spent again in the community. And the money that that funded post would bring in would be significantly many times more than the cost of that post. And as I say, it would help the most vulnerable in our community. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you very much for the question, Councillor. I think we're actually doing a lot of that already with regards to, we've got the food bus and the extension of the food bus that's going to be rolled out later on this year in terms of identifying debt support, citizens' advice support through there. We're looking at opening a hub in Dereham that provides a similar service. We've got social prescribers that will also touch on the service that you're suggesting. Happy to have a further conversation, but I do think that the council is probably doing much of what you're proposing already. Maybe we need to provide a little bit more detail as a new councillor so that you can fully understand what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Will Richmond, your question, please.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. A question for Councillor Bowles, please. Please can the member for Housing provide an update on what the council are doing to help facilitate the prevention of damp and mould in housing across the district, please?
Thank you, Councillor Richmond. Yes, we've been successful in being awarded funding of up to £130,000, I'm pleased to say, in financial year 24 to 25 to deliver interventions to support robust damp and mould enforcement. And they focus on the following, which is additional resource in the team, standardised training across the team, improved communications and engagement with landlords and tenants, and improved equipment such as tools to measure damp and mould, and improved data collection tools and support. The team are putting their proposals together for how best to utilise this right now. And just to go on to say, I also attended the flagship question and answer session at Carrow Road recently, at which Nadia Khan, Director of Customer and Community at RBH, spoke about the tragic case of Awab Ishaq to raise awareness and increase understanding of the cause and risks. And as a result of the case and the terrible circumstances experienced by the family, the government issued new guidance to landlords in England to ensure that tenants are housed in decent homes and treated fairly. In Breckland, all registered providers have got inspection survey programmes in place and take all complaints seriously. And any tenant, social or private, should raise the issue with their landlord first. And if the landlord doesn't act, then the council can intervene where improvement is needed. And just to follow on from that, I'd just like to take the opportunity to mention some other funding that we've also just been awarded, which is an additional grant of £170,000 for 24 to 25 to help us tackle homelessness and reduce the need for use of temporary accommodation. The team are working again on how best to use this and to have the biggest and most lasting impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, Councillor Keith Gilbert, your question, please.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a question for the Deputy Leader, or you may wish to pass it on to the relevant Cabinet member. How are you getting on with prosecuting people who fly post their advertising material on lampposts all around Watton and the surrounding area? Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have the detail to the answer for that. I know that the team are really busy prosecuting for fly tips for many different places across the district. Fly posting, but I don't know whether Councillor Crane has got any further comment to add to that.
Yes, thank you. All I will add to that is that we have engaged with the complainant. It's really only been one complainant regarding this fly posting. I actually would like to bring in Craig Fowler, if possible, and he'll explain a little bit more regarding what we are doing around fly posting. Thank you.
Craig, could actually come up to a microphone, please? Yeah.
Yes, well, we're looking at fly posting at the moment. Obviously, we need to be satisfied that it is a priority and it is in the public interest. So we're looking at that in accordance with our enforcement policy. As already been said, the numbers of complaints are really, really low. You will also hopefully be aware that we have had further investment in inspiring communities as well, as part of our, an additional antisocial behaviour and environmental crime officer, which we will shortly hopefully be going out to recruitment, and we will look at utilising that resource in the best possible way for the communities of Breckland.
Thanks, Craig, for that. Can I also add that when Serco are doing their street work, they do take down fly posts. And what we don't do is send out if there is a complaint, and as Craig has said, we're less than 10 complaints, is that whilst they're there, they will take down the fly post. And what we don't do is send a team out because someone has complained about fly posts, because that is not in the public purse interest.
Yeah, thank you all for that. Councillor Stewart Terry, you have a question, please?
Thank you. It's a question for the Vice Chair. Recently, at a launch by the Breckland and West Norfolk Youth Advisory Boards held at the Barnum Broom Golf and Country Club, the young people produced a powerful presentation based on months of research, educational trips and listening to first-hand experiences, and have developed the Right to Play pledge, through which any business, charity, organisation can support the campaign and commit to thinking inclusively when it comes to play areas with disability access. Every child has the right to play. This means every single child, whatever their culture, impairment, gender, language, background, behaviour or need. The right to play is accepted universally and is set out in the United Nations Convention on the Rights of a Child. The Convention recognises that free play is not an optional extra for children. It is fundamental to their physical, social, mental and emotional development and intrinsic to their health and happiness in the present moment. As such, play relates closely to many of the other important articles in the Convention. On Tuesday the 2nd of April next week, both Thetford and Watton Town Councils will be signing the pledge that everyone has the right to play. Will Breckland, along with the other market towns, fully support this?
Okay, thank you for your question. Unfortunately, I was unable to go to that forum that day, although I was invited. But I know it was supported by our chairman and some other members. And we have worked with the Youth Advisory Board with that Right to Play scheme, what they are looking to promote, and we have incorporated some references to that within the design guide. So at the next cabinet meeting, we're hoping to bring that design guide to that cabinet meeting, and you should be able to see in there some references to us supporting the work with the Youth Advisory Board are doing to that Right to Play. So thank you for that.
Thank you to that. Yeah, I did attend that, and Breckland Council has supported the Youth Advisory Board since 2015, since I took that post on here, and 10 years before that I was always supporting their activities, and they've all been successful. I just like to remind members that when they're sitting at the parish council meetings, just mention it to the parish council if they're discussing 106 funding for play parks and things like that. It's already been done by one of our member in Swaffham, Councillor Morton, where he's already approached ongoing contractors and builders in Swaffham and been successful in talking with those to put inclusive play equipment in. So it is active. Yeah. Any other questions? Nobody's put their hand up? Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. Oh, and
leaders of the opposition.
Can you come back with the leaders?
You have to get to the leaders of the opposition.
Yeah. So, Harry, have you got another question? And then to Roger.
Thank you, Chairman. Another question for Councillor Hewitt. Can you please provide members with a brief written update on the progress of the sale of Barnum Broom Golf and Country Club, please?
I will endeavour to do so, Councillor Atwell. I'll endeavour to do so. You members will be aware and obviously the transaction is still taking place, that there is a protocol that was covered. The deadline for that particular pre-action protocol has now finished, and we are taking steps appropriately, but I will update.
Terry, you have a question, your first one?
Yes, please. Thank you, Chairman. It's a question for the Deputy Leader. Sarah, I appreciate that the local plan specifically doesn't fit within your portfolio anymore, but more broadly on consultations, Breckland's been awash with consultations over the last few months, some more popular than others, so shall we say. Will you be taking the opportunity to review the responses to the local plan and other consultations, and considering how Breckland can increase the number of people participating? And I've raised this with you previously, but just to mention, for some of them, they're quite complicated, and we don't do nearly enough to ensure that the majority of people can take part, particularly for those with English as a second language, which has been a real barrier, particularly on the local plan. But I'd like to think that we're constantly reviewing and trying to improve response rates, so if you could comment on that, I'd be grateful.
Thank you. And you're right, we have been awash with consultations, and some have been more in depth than others. So in response to the reviewing of the situation, with regards to the local plan consultations up to date, there has been some works being done to try and tidy up that commonplace front page to just make it look less clunky, a bit more efficient for people to know which is the current live consultation which we would like people to come out to. And I think we've been a bit of a victim of our own success over the amount of consultations that we've done and the reports that we've had come back, and it is right and proper that we act on some of the negative stuff to try and make the future ones better. We've had the commitment from Simon this morning about looking into perhaps coming to Thetford for planning committee meetings. Actually, maybe we need to look a bit differently where we've got English as a second language to come in a bit of a different way to try and make sure that we are getting to some of those members of the communities. The youth groups as well are another key part. I think it was mentioned at the local plan briefing last week, there are certain types of people that will apply themselves to these consultations, but actually we'd like to hear from our youth of today, because they're the people that the local plan especially are going to be impacting. So we will be looking at how we better engage with the youth advisory boards, the schools, etc., the colleges, as to how we can better do that in the future. So yes, we are constantly looking and reviewing all of the hard work what our residents put into responding to us. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Sarah Taylor, you had a question?
Thank you. So this is directed towards Councillor Hewitt. I'm a little bit concerned that your last response is quite suggestive of a fundamental misreading of my written question. Nowhere do I actually request a 10% minimum value be secured for social value in contracts. That's not in my question. What I've asked is that we commit to a minimum evaluation criterion on contracts, so that social value is given a weight of 10% when assessing contracts. I, like you, do not believe that taxpayers should pay for this, and I think that's implicit within the Social Value Act. This is why I'm keen that this should be done efficiently. So will you commit to a minimum evaluation criterion of 10% in future contracts? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I am concerned that you are concerned, but perhaps I'm not surprised that you are concerned. Let me be a bit clearer. PPN 0620 specifically states in the remit that no unnecessary burdens should be placed on commercial teams or suppliers in affecting social value contracts. PPN 0620 specifically excludes local authorities from the remit of PPN 0620, and I'm happy with that. What we currently do within our procurement process is to make sure that we are, where practical and possible, favouring local suppliers, where practical and possible, trying to support local suppliers to help provide the services to us as a council that gives best value to this council and also gives best opportunities to those suppliers. We are currently talking, as I mentioned in my reply to you, through to through to the social value portal to make sure that what we are currently doing and the best value that they are recommending, we are already putting into place. What I cannot and will not commit to is a potential risk of actually some of the very small businesses that we're trying to support facing unnecessary burdens in achieving that 10% social value target. So no, let me make you even more concerned. I will not commit to something that in my view might harm our businesses that we as a council specifically seek to enable them to thrive.
Thank you. Councillor Terry Land, you have one more question?
Thank you, Chair. This is for the Cabinet Member for Property, so I'm afraid it's you again, Paul. In the Memorandum of Understanding for the Abbey Estate infill, there is an expectation that Breckland District Council will provide for free council-owned land to facilitate the development. Could you confirm, please, if a financial value for this land has been calculated, and if not, when will it be available? Thank you.
Once that process has happened, I will be able to confirm the financial value of the land. As a rule, as you might well know, in terms of my role in extracting best value for land, we typically don't give stuff away for free as a council because that might harm other taxpayers. But there are always exceptions to that process, and some of those exceptions are where we believe, as now does national government, that a regeneration programme is of sufficient scale, magnitude and value to the local community that it will allow the local community to thrive as a result. And we, as any council, should play our part in that type of regeneration project. But once we actually know the precise details and terms, then I can get back to you with the value, Terry.
Okay, I will go back to Councillor Harry Clark, who sat there and thought of another question.
Thank you, Chairman. My question may go to Councillor Hewitt, but if not, I'm sure he'll advise and pass it to another colleague if it isn't himself. This is relating to the former Akash restaurant in Dereham in the Market Square, right slap bang opposite the Dereham War Memorial, which is very respected. I first raised the Akash restaurant and its condition in 2017 in response to the Breckland-wide call for council to submit details about unsightly sites. I appreciate that there are various legal processes and things ongoing, and you may be limited in what you can respond, but if you can give any update and advice in terms of any timescales, this is particularly for the benefit of the public who may be watching or listening or reading about it, that would be helpful. Thank you.
If I may, I'll pass on to Councillor Suggett, although I must confess, when I last ate in the Akash restaurant in about 2003, it had some issues with the building even then, and the curry wasn't particularly good either. But I'll pass over to Councillor Suggett.
Thank you, Councillor, for your question. I know this is like a recurring nightmare which keeps coming up at this point for updates, but I can assure you all that this is being taken really very seriously, and we are having to work through legal powers to seek a solution to this, which is never a straightforward system. It is a complex issue, and at the end of the day, we are talking about a property in private ownership, and the responsibilities start with that owner to keep that property in an acceptable condition, and it isn't something where we would like to normally step into those places. So we are moving as effectively as possible within the legal process. I appreciate it's limited information that I can share with you within this forum, but as it does progress and move forward, I will keep you updated in this space. But if there's anybody that wants to know anything in more detail, I'm sure officers will give a private briefing should that be required. But it is a legal process, and we are a little bit restricted in what detail we can give. But thank you for raising it again.
Thank you, Councillor. And that brings the conclusion of this 30 minutes questions. So I'll move on to agenda item 8, Pay Policy Statement 24-25. and this can be found in your agenda pack papers, page 34 to 46. And I'd like to ask now Chief Executive Maxine Maloney to present the report, please.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, members. May I present to you the pay policy statement for Breckland Council for 24-25, a copy of which can be seen in Appendix A. Under Section 38 of the Localism Act, a pay policy statement is required to be produced annually. The statement must be approved by the 31st of March each year and published on our website as soon as possible after that. This has been a requirement for those of you that have been around for a while since 2012-2013. The pay policy statement is a statement of fact for the financial year, and it must set out the authority's policy relating to the remuneration of chief officers, the remuneration of the lowest paid employees, and the relationship between chief officers' remuneration and other officers. Included within the statement is the latest gender pay figure using a snapshot date of the 31st of March 2023. The policy must be approved by Council, and it's a statement of fact, as I've said, and therefore I ask full Council to approve the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? Councillor Kyberg.
Thanks, Maxine. It's not a problem with the report at all, but I note that the casual user rates for electric vehicles are the lowest per mile, even though depreciation on electric vehicles is the highest per mile, and perhaps you could lobby the National Joint Council to have a better reflection of the value of electric vehicles to society.
With no other questions, I will. The recommendation is that the pay policy statement be approved. All in favour?
You haven't had a proposal.
Sorry. Yes.
Can we have a proposal?
Yes, I'll have a proposer for that, please.
Mark Kiddle-Morris.
Mark Kiddle-Morris, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'd like to propose that this pay policy statement for this year is approved by Council. Thank you.
And a second.
I would like to second
Councillor Webb. Thank you. Sorry about that. I didn't make myself. I was wanting to get on. Okay, so we'll go to a vote then, Julie. All in favour that the recommendation that the pay policy statement be approved. Anybody against? Any abstentions? None. So that's unanimous. Thank you. Item 9, fees and charges. Could I ask Councillor Helen Crane, Executive Member for Waste, Environmental, Health, Licensing and Sustainability, to present the report and then propose and quote the recommendations that can be found on page 47 of the agenda pack.
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning, members. I would like to introduce the report for you to consider and approve a revised set of licensing fees and charges for the 24-25 financial year. As stated in the report, the licensing team have carried out a full and comprehensive review of all the services, discretionary fees and charges in line with new legal advice and good practice. They are based on full cost recovery to ensure that we do not undercharge or overcharge. This has been a lengthier process than the usual annual budget setting, and as such, these remaining fees and charges are coming through separate to the fees and charges that have already been reviewed and approved as part of the budget setting process earlier in the year. The proposed licensing fees and charges have been provided to Licensing Committee for information, and I sat in on that Licensing Committee where members of that committee were able to ask questions to officers. Whilst there were very few questions, members of the committee were content with the answers provided by officers and with the proposed set of fees and charges. And therefore I would recommend to full council that all those fees and charges listed at Appendix 1 to this report be approved and added to the council list of corporate fees and charges, and that all approved fees and charges shall apply from the 1st of April 2024. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Could I have a seconder, a proposer for that, please? Can you? You proposed, Helen proposed, and I need a seconder, please. Yeah. Councillor Morton, you was up first, thank you. Okay.
Any questions?
Yes, have we got any questions? No. So I will go to the vote. Are we all in favour? No. Anybody against? Is that any abstentions? No, thank you. Well, that was carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 10, the Independent Remuneration Panel Report. Could I ask Sarah Barsby, the Assistant Director for People and Governance, to present this report, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Members, you have before you today a covering report plus the final report of the Council's Independent Remuneration Panel. Members should be aware that it is for this Council to agree the remuneration for its members, having first considered the report and recommendations of the panel. Panel members Andrew Edgerton-Smith, who's the Chairman of the IRP, and Jonathan Rogers, panel member, are also in attendance this morning and are happy to provide any further information or answer any questions concerning their report. Thank you, Chairman.
Could I ask for a proposer for that, please? Councillor Suggett, and a seconder, please, Councillor Borrett. Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Clark, then Councillor Attewell.
Yes, thank you very much, Chairman. By your leave, and thank you very much, Sarah, I would like, on behalf of the opposition group, to make some observations and comments on the report, if that's in order, please. I'm not making any recommendations in terms of individual amendments, etc. at this stage. I'd like to say on behalf of the group, obviously we welcome this report, which is obviously long overdue, and must pay tribute to the work that the panel has done, and they've undertaken this in greater detail and depth than we've done in the past. And I think, as far as we are concerned, we have thought carefully about the report and implications, not just for ourselves as current councillors, but also those councillors of the future, because we won't be here forever. So we acknowledge the work that they have done. There are some very good statements and principles and aspirations in the report, I think in particular, such as recognising the work of councillors and their communities, supporting initiatives in the community, playing a part in civic life, and also the work of the council. In thinking about the report as a whole, what we've tried to do is look at a range of particular tests. And obviously we're not trying to rewrite the report. Things like, is there officer support ongoing? Is there a scrutiny role in the particular area concerned in some of the tiers and the chairmanship? What about complexity? Are there delegated powers? Can the committee accept or reject recommendations? The frequency and the volume of information prior and during meetings. So those are some of the things which obviously I'm sure the panel will have looked at as well. So given the length of time that the panel has taken shouldn't inhibit us in terms of thinking about backdating. The time that this has taken is outside the control of us as councillors. We support the principle of backdating back only to the start of this review. That was applying to all tiers and all chairmanship. We think backdating probably should have applied to all tiers for consistency. In terms of the report, we have a little bit of, I suppose we're uncomfortable, I suppose that's the best term, about some of the arguments are made to justify the increases in making a link to the council's performance and the justification for increases. Because by the same token, if the council was in a Section 114 or not achieving its goals, then on that basis there wouldn't have been any increases, because the allowances are paid for the time, and there isn't a measure of effectiveness. We aren't tied to performance-related pay. I won't go into the ins and outs of the lowest council tax argument, other than to just comment that Breckland would lose its position if West Oxfordshire stopped increasing their council tax. I think measuring performance on the basis of other authorities is a little irrational. In terms of diversity, we are pleased that the report
Could I ask
panel...
you to sum up, Councillor? Your 3 minutes
yes,
is
the
up.
panel
Thank you.
talks rightly about the diverse cohort of council and changing demographic, but we don't think that pay is the only answer to increase that diversity, and there's no actual evidence given there that the panel's looked at the moment of that, things like evening meeting and so forth. Finally, there's also a disparity between the chairmanship of various committees and the actual members and the rate that deputies have, and the panel hasn't touched or is silent on the length of time and complexity that members may spend on things, say whether in audit and governance or planning in particular. So that's the end of my brief comments, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Atterwell, you have a question?
Chairman, I'd like to propose an amendment to the recommendations, please. And I believe I have a seconder for that.
I will need a seconder, yes. Councillor Gilbert. And we'll need to take, well, I'll hand over, well, I think we need to take a vote on that, don't we?
We don't know what.
No. Do you want me to? No, on his recommend, on what? No. Do you want me to? Yeah, carry on then.
So just to clarify the arrangement, if there's an amendment proposed on which is tabled at the meeting, which is an amendment to the recommendations, which is perfectly legitimate and is seconded, it then goes to debate. The proposer has five minutes to speak to the motion. Everyone else has 3 minutes to it. The seconder can choose to speak immediately or at the end of the debate, and the mover of the motion, the proposer, has a right of reply at the end of the debate. We then take a vote on the amendment. Depending if it's successful, that then becomes a substantive recommendation. If it's unsuccessful, we revert back to the pre-existing recommendations.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Chairman. Julie, would it be possible to put my amendment up on the screen, please? I wanted to say that there are elements to this report which I welcome. I have to say, on behalf of my small opposition group here and independent councillors, I was very disappointed, I have to say, that the remuneration panel singularly failed to ask any of us to be interviewed, despite me submitting quite a lengthy document. So I've noted that our disappointment. It seems like if you're in the Labour or the Conservative group, you're welcome with open arms, but not if you're in the minor groups. Basically, I'm happy if you could just scroll down to the special responsibility allowances, please. My main concern with the report is that I believe that more work needs to be done in relation to the special responsibility allowances for the main 4 committee chairmen, and that is the chairman of planning, overview and scrutiny, governance and audit, and general purposes. I think that we should ask the remuneration panel to go away again, carry out a more thorough and detailed cost analysis for those roles. And I say that because, having done quite a lot of analysis myself, and I don't know whether you'll indulge me, Chairman, but I did provide some slides to sort of back up why I'm making this amendment. Will you indulge me and allow that?
No, not on that. I think I'd just like to hear your amendment, and then we go from there, please. We can see where you've come from, but I don't think we need to go into the facts and figures at this time, which you've come to conclusion with your amendment.
No, Chairman, I have 5 minutes to talk about my amendment.
3 minutes.
5 minutes. The amendment is up on the screen. I'm now talking about my amendment. I did provide some slides as to why I think I'm putting forward this amendment, but I believe it's in your gift.
Take your 5 minutes then, and then put in what you need to put in, and then that will have to come to an end.
Yeah, but will you allow the slides?
No, we never had slides before.
Okay, that's fine. So the first thing to note is that the remuneration panel clearly has taken no account of comparison data with the other 6 district level councils in Norfolk. For example, if you're the chairman of planning at Breckland, you currently get £12,279. The average for the other 6 district level councils in Norfolk for the same role is 4,738. Chairman of Overview and Scrutiny gets 12,279. The average for the rest of Norfolk is 4,074. Chairman of Governance and Audit currently gets 5,780. The average in Norfolk is £3,501. Now, when I did the analysis on the number of meetings that take place for each of the last 6 years, you've also got a considerable disparity between the amount of work involved between the chairman of planning and the chairman of Overview and Scrutiny. So the average number of meetings for the last 6 years for planning was 12 meetings. For Overview and Scrutiny, it was only 7.16. And when you equate that, it basically means that the allowance they receive for planning is £1,024 per meeting. And I get that there's additional work that goes with that. And Overview and Scrutiny is £1,715. Governance and Audit only carries out, it was 4.33 meetings per annum across the last 6 years. And that chairman gets 1,409 per meeting. General purposes, we're proposing, again, there's only data for the last 3 years, that chairman gets £1,220. I think there's a disparity between the tiering and the work involved between those committee chairmen. So I think that needs to be looked at again, and I'd like some justification of how we can really justify in a cost of living crisis spending that amount of money. When you look at the average time that it takes per meeting, again, I looked at the analysis for 2023. The planning planning committee met for a total of 30 hours, which worked out an average 2 hours 44 minutes. Overview and Scrutiny was 15 hours in total, so half of what the planning committee met for. Their meetings averaged 2.5 hours. Governance and Audit met for a total of 4 hours and 45 minutes, and that came to 1 hour and 11 minutes per meeting. So if we just take Governance and Audit, at the moment the proposal is £6,100 for chairing that meeting. Chairing 4 meetings a year equates to over £1,500 per meeting. I get that they'll have to liaise with officers to put the agendas together, etc., but I'm not sure we can really justify that level of spending. General purposes, 3 hours and 42 minutes in the last year, and the average time of the meeting is 45 minutes. I'm using the data based on the minutes that are provided and published online, which publish the start and finish time of the meetings. I also just want to come on to the proposed backdating for General Purposes Committee. Looking at the data and all the meetings that have taken place since February 2022, come to a total amount of hours for all the committee meetings to the current day of 8 hours 37 minutes. I do not believe that we can justify backdating to £6,100 a year, backdating that 2 years. We're talking £12,200 for nearly 9 hours work. Based on a total of 8 hours in the chair, this works out at £1,417 per hour. In conclusion,
you sum it up now.
In conclusion, I don't believe the remuneration panel has justified the large disparity in Breckland allowances with other districts when it comes to these committee chairs. There's no evidence that Breckland support the theory espoused by some that generous allowances attract younger, more diverse, more qualified people to become councillors. Just look around the room at the average age. The remuneration panel may have interviewed some committee chair, but they failed to provide any detailed cost analysis for each of the roles, taking account of the varying numbers of meetings for each committee and the hours involved. They based their recommendations on anecdotal evidence, each of the roles is unique and the allowances should reflect this rather than the tier system. I mean, I could go on, Chairman, but I think you basically get the gist that I think in a cost of living crisis, I look at this as the sniff test for the general public. They would think this is not appropriate remuneration for those roles.
Right. Can I ask you a second? Have you got any?
Does he want to go now or at the end?
Did you want to go now or at the end? At the end. Okay.
So are there
Any other comments on the?
Any other comments on? Any other comments on the amendments? So Councillor Clark and then Councillor Borrett.
Yes, thank you, Chairman, and I'm sure, like the panel, obviously, I'm sure must thank Councillor Atterwell for his diligence and report, and obviously the panel and executive members will have heard what he said. If I'd like to make a couple of three comments, about two committees, I declare an interest because I'm on the Planning Committee and Governance and Audit. In terms of this going up 2027, not having an annual review, which the panel in the past has said is a good idea, takes it away from any democratic oversight until the next council elections. Moving on, in terms of the Planning Committee, the report is silent on the role of all members of the committee, which is quasi-judicial. It's worth pointing out that its decisions can't be altered by the Cabinet, scrutiny of full council. Members can accept or reject officers' recommendations, defer, ask for a legal opinion on an application, and each application requires due diligence pre-reading. And when sitting, members can question officers, applicants and objectors. And I think it's a pity that there was no thought given to the, for example, remuneration to members actually attending the meeting. And I think other than the casting vote and chairing the meeting, really, the chair doesn't really have those other powers. Turning to audit, which I'm also a member of, it is the only one, I've now been attending that in my 9th year, which has an independent person, internal audit presenting, an external audit. It is the most senior committee dealing with treasury management, risk, the constitution, standards, and signing off that the council is governed effectively against a rigorous checklist. And the recommendations of this committee are universally accepted by the council, who rely on the assurance of this committee. As someone who's been a national specialist on risk and audit, obviously I'm bound to say that. There is a large volume of required reading and training to the committee, I think, which has gone unrecognised by the committee in some of the other comments. I do agree that any backdating should only go back to any areas only going back to the start of this review, so I concur with that element that Councillor Atterwell has mentioned. And those are the other comments I wish to make, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask Councillor Borrett, please, to respond?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that Councillor Atterwell's put in a lot of time and produced a lot of figures. However, I do not agree at all with what he proposes, nor do I think he's been fair or honest with the efforts of the independent panel. The independent panel who put this report forward are exactly that. They are independent. They are beyond the reach and scope of influence of members. So they have listened to the people who they have chosen to listen to. It's not within the gift of the council to say who they should meet. It's entirely up to them who they choose to meet. And they have produced a report based on the time and effort that they think that it would be a fair amount of remuneration to members if they undertook that role. This isn't to specific people. This is to roles within the council that members undertake. So none of this is personal to individuals. I think what they have proposed is fair and equitable. Breckland have prided themselves over many years on being a member-run council, and I don't think that it is an accident that it has the lowest district council tax in the country, because we have, as members, have taken a very active role in running the council. So to conflate the idea of the cost of the council and members' allowances, in that if you have higher members' allowances or fair members' allowances, as laid out by the independent panel, that in some way you have a more expensive council. I think the evidence suggests that the more involved that members are able to be, the better value for money the council produces. So on that, I would just like to say that Councillor Attewell compares some of the allowances with other councils. But if you are a member of Norwich City Council, you get paid as a member to turn up and sit on a committee, even when you're not the chair, over and above your basic allowance. So you are comparing apples and oranges here. And I think that all except one member of Norwich City Council get an extra allowance for sitting on a committee as a member. So I do think that it is perhaps not as black and white a picture as Councillor Attewell presents. So I am very happy to support the independent panel's picture. I suggest, and I would recommend, that we accept the independent panel's recommendations is in full, unamended, as laid out in their report, and as such I will not be supporting Councillor Attewell's amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Blackburn, you had a question?
Yeah, thank you. I'm not particularly interested in what's gone on in the past. As a new councillor, I would like to be made fully aware of the figures he's come up with and see how this independent panel has come up with the recommendations, and did it take into consideration the remuneration that other panels around the county are given. It seems rather unusual that the figures that are paid here are significantly higher than other areas. I would like to know why. Thank you.
Thank you. The chairman of the panel, that particular panel, is present today. If I'd invite him to answer that question, if he would like to. But it doesn't have to.
I think, Councillor, if you were able to repose your question, that the chairman of the panel can then answer.
And if Judith can help with the microphone down there, Judith, that's done. Okay, lovely. So, Councillor, if you ask the chairman the quick question again, please.
Thank you. If the figures are correct that have come over from Councillor Ashwell, I'd like to know how the recommendation that you came up with, or the panel came up with those figures, bearing in mind the remuneration is significantly higher than other areas for similar responsibility. Now, with the cost of living and everyone else pulling their belts in, why has the figure come up so high? Thank you.
Chairman, thank you very much. I've been chairman of this panel, I think, for over 20 years. And I can remember about 20 years ago, there was a comment from one of the councillors and from the local paper that there were snouts in the trough. I have never accepted that comment, because to me, Breckland it's wrong to say it's unique, but it does have the lowest council tax in the country, or one of them. The very fact that when the Deputy Chairman spoke this morning about the recent successes, you can understand that as a panel, we see this authority as being entrepreneurial in all that it does. I did hear some of the comments about all the time commitments that people invest, but it's actually outcomes that matter. And when you look at the outcomes achieved by Breckland, they are impressive. Now, our role, we are independent, and our role is actually to try to act equitably between the council taxpayers, the Breckland budget, and to achieve fair recompense for the councillors who give their time and experience. And over the years, I'm satisfied that we have achieved this. I know that the figures that Breckland pay are in some areas above those paid by other Norfolk authorities. But I'm not sure that that is totally relevant, because it's back to the outcomes and the fact that Breckland do achieve good results. Look at Thetford, look at the industrial corridor between Norwich and Cambridge at Snetterton. There are significant works and improvements taking place. And that is why we think that the figures that we have proposed are, as I said at the beginning, equitable to all parties.
Oh. Yeah, thank you very much, sir, for that. Appreciate your time. Thank you. Councillor Cogman, you have a question?
Thank you. It's more of a comment than a question. So I'd just like to reference the relationship with money encouraging councillors. And I think actually the single biggest barrier to encouraging a wide range of diverse councillors to stand and become involved is that the meetings are in the day in Breckland, and this causes all sorts of issues with work and caring. So I would just wanted to put that in as part of the debate. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hewitt, you have a comment, please?
Thank you, Chair. Broad comment, if I may. I mean, we get a sense of deja vu here. The conversation started so well, and it's rare that I agree absolutely with what Councillor Clark says, but this statement is well overdue. It does relate to both the future as well as current issues, and there are a series of statements of aspirations which really I think we all want to be bold and to accept as a council moving forwards. And as always, it then moves into an area of distaste. Although the report is well overdue and it's great, actually it's all rubbish, because various other bits and pieces we don't like, we won't talk to. And actually, with the greatest respect to many councillors in this room, I've never seen my job as a councillor as a clock-on, clock-off job. Some people might. For me, the job is done until the job is done, regardless of how many hours I get allocated to it, regardless of how many hours I turn up at a meeting for. It's a little bit like, with, I might say, comparing two village precepts, one which might be high and one which might be low, and saying, why is there a difference between two precepts? Because the village councils do their own thing. These are not comparable pieces of information moving forwards. A few months ago, I seem to recall one of the members in this room complaining about the remuneration committee was being just renewed without more outside input and outside help. Part of the reason why this report has been delayed is that we got outside committee members. We got outside help. The independent remuneration committee appointed new members. They spoke to various people, including the leader of the opposition. And now I think we're saying, actually, although they are independent, they've got new members. We want to listen to what they say. We might not like what they say because it's in our political interest, actually, to make a big sound about the whole thing. Be absolutely clear, everyone in this room, the acceptance of an allowance is a personal moral judgment. You can choose to accept it or not. Some members, I know, accept it. Some members take it and then allocate it to local areas and more local needs. Some members, on the other hand, might beg a big huff and a fuff, a little bit like, and with the greatest respect to the individual, they're no longer in this chamber, the individual who complained about the high level of mileage allowance and then said, but I'm going to claim it anyway, because that way I'd make the most money out of it. You don't have to take an allowance if you choose not to, but we should listen, trust and respect the independent remuneration committee, because that's what we've asked them to do. From that respect, with the greatest respect, I'm very much against the amendment, but I'm certainly in favour of accepting in full the terms of the independent commission report.
Thank you, Councillor. Gordon, you have a question or a comment?
Well, it's a comment, really, Chairman. I speak as a backbench member. I hold no other position in this council at the moment, except I sit on an outside body. I support the independent remuneration panel. I've always supported it. I'm very pleased with what they've come up with. I think when we start analysing the amount the various committees, and I have been chairman of a committee and I have held other offices in this council, once we start analysing how much per hour that committee member is being paid, then I think we are on a hiding to nothing. I know that as a committee chairman, you spend untold hours on research, independent and within this building, and I know that it is impossible to delineate it in that way. A new councillor coming on this council, I'd happily tell them how many hours they're likely to spend, and then they probably wouldn't stand for election, because what we're paid as councillors is not a great deal of money. But we do have an independent panel. It is independent for the reason that has already been stated several times, and I believe that we should accept that panel's decision.
Yes, I've got
sorry, Councillor Clausen.
Councillor Clausen.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I really do object to being compared to other councils in the district, other districts in Norfolk. I'll just give you one example of why this council is different, and thank you for recognising that. If we look at Inspiring Communities, the members instructed the officers to strip out New Homes bonus from the base budget. And that is why you now have the Inspiring Communities going forward. You wouldn't have that if it hadn't have been for members. Look at the rest of Norfolk. They didn't do it. They haven't got what we've got. And I think it should be celebrated that councillors here do actually drive the agenda. So I'm going to be completely supporting what the remuneration panel, the independent remuneration panel, has said. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gilbert, you second this proposed amendment.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll second this amendment. I can agree with the vast majority of what is here, but I think what we are looking at, we'd like to see more of the rationale behind some of the decisions. So it's not a case of not accepting everything. It's just that if there was more rationale for the figures that have been produced, mainly for committee chairman, I think we would have a better understanding of why these are being recommended. So that is why I will support the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Aswell, you have a right to reply, and then if you could just reiterate your amendment, which is on the screen anyway, then we'll go to a vote.
Thank you, Chairman. I would just like to say absolutely this is not about individual personalities. What I've said here is about the actual positions. There is much in this report that I think is welcome, but all I'm asking for at the moment, having done the figures and the money involved, is for the remuneration panel to go away, look specifically at those 4 roles and come back with more information. They may come up with perfectly good rationale, but at the moment I can't justify that level of expenditure. To Councillor Borrett, I was quite bemused actually to hear him say that we should always adhere by the remuneration panel. I'm old enough to remember that in another place a remuneration panel agreed one level and he and his colleagues decided they didn't like what they were told and put up the allowances by 12%. So it seems to, it's good in one place but not in other to reconsider it.
I can't take those comments from personal comments to another organisation. It's not relevant to Breckland Council at this point. Thank you.
It is correct. I said on the record, I would just say, finally, to sum up, any councillor allowance scheme should be fully aware of public perception and be able to justify those allowances, especially during a cost of living crisis, when many families in the district are struggling. The council has an identified budget shortfall and is seeking to identify cost efficiency measures to mitigate this. The councillor allowance scheme should not be immune from the council's evolve process. The committee chairman that I've mentioned, unlike cabinet members, have no delegated powers. And looking at the proposed schedule of allowances, the general public might be forgiven for thinking they prefer the vice chairman of these committees to chair them. It would be much more cost effective to do so at a fraction of the cost. I could go on, Chairman, but I think I'm quite happy to put forward the amendment as I've tabled up there and put it to the vote.
Thank you, members. We've heard everything, and I'd like to take a vote. You've heard that amendment. No, it's too late now, Councillor. Rob?
It's not at the moment.
It's not at the moment because it hasn't been requested. So if the people want, councillors want a recorded vote, somebody needs to propose it, and 12 members of the chamber need to agree to it for it to be a recorded vote. Chairman, so you'd have to ask the members of the council, and if there are 12 further members who agree with a recorded vote, it would be a recorded vote. Just to be clear to members, we're voting on the amendment here, not the original motion. Yeah.
Yes. So can we have a vote that it's a recorded amendment on the recorded vote on the amendment? Do we need 4
No,
days?
it's a recorded vote.
How many is that, Julie? 13 is recorded. It will be a recorded vote.
Yep. Okay. The criteria for recorded vote on the amendment. So if you could go. So, Julie, could you take?
All on block. Yes.
So we'll do it all on block on the amendment. Yeah.
So just to be clear, we're voting on the amendment.
Just the amendment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Councillor Anscombe. Councillor Ashby. Councillor Atterwell. Councillor Bambridge. Councillor David Blackburn. Councillor Borrett. Councillor Bowes. Councillor Clark. Councillor Clausen. Councillor Cogman. Councillor Cowan.
Against.
Councillor Crane. Councillor Eagle. Councillor Fraser. Councillor Gilbert. Councillor Harvey. Councillor Hewitt. Councillor Jermy. Councillor Kiddle-Morris. Councillor Kybird. Councillor Land. Councillor Monument. Councillor Morton. Councillor O'Callaghan. Councillor Plummer. Councillor Richmond. Councillor Suggett. Councillor Samantha Taylor. Councillor Sarah Taylor. Councillor Taylor. Councillor Terry. Councillor Turner. Councillor Webb. Councillor Wickerson. Councillor Councillor Wilkinson.
Against?
Mr Chairman, may I vote as well, please?
Oh, sorry. Councillor Brindle, sorry. My apologies for... Thank you.
You were so quiet, we forgot you was there.
So, the amendment's not successful.
Right, thank you for that. You've had your vote, and it is 13 votes for the amendment and 23 against. So that amendment has been lost. Thank you. Could you remove the amendment from the screen, please? Now we will go back to the original recommendations for a vote. It's been proposed by Sir Councillor Suggett and seconded by Bill Borrett.
I request a recorded vote, Chair.
He's requesting, so we now need to
So you now need to vote
Yeah.
on the recorded vote.
Yeah, so we need to vote on the request for a recorded vote. All those in favour of a recorded vote for the main amendment, for the main policy.
All those against?
All those against?
It doesn't need it.
No, okay, we don't need to do that
So it's a
then.
recorded vote.
Right, so it's a recorded vote. Over to you again, Julie, please.
Councillor Anscombe. Councillor Ashby. Councillor Atterwill. Councillor
Julie,
Bam.
can you just pause for a second? Apologies, members. When we reverted back to the substantive original motion, we've gone straight to the vote without any questions or comments. I think we should take the opportunity to ask if there are any questions or comments before returning to the vote. Sorry, Julie. I'm sorry, Chairman. Yes, so if we go to, if there's any comments or questions that need to be made now, and then we return to the recorded vote once those questions and comments have been dealt with.
Thank you. You've heard my legal advice. Any questions and or comments?
Councillor Sarah Taylor.
Councillor Sarah Taylor. Then.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Just a small point. Could I ask for some clarification, please? On page 50 on the agenda, there's the point 11 relating to carers and childcare allowances. So in May, I was told that that is provided only for childcare. Is that being extended to cover family carers now, please?
Chairman,
to answer that for me. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, sir.
Be as open as possible in this allowance. What we wanted to make sure was that nobody was put in a position because they were a carer or had a disability that they could not become a counsellor. In other words, we wanted it to be as positive as possible.
I would just add to that we actually haven't changed who is allowed to take the allowance. All we did was adjust the amount in line with the real living wage.
Thank you. Councillor Wickerson, you had a comment.
Thank you, Chairman. It is a comment, and I'd just like to remind everybody that we may not, excuse me, this conversation that we've had today may not needed to be had if the panel had actually invited one of the group leaders into the interview process. Councillor Atterwill sent a substantial report in to the panel in September, a written report which was never acknowledged or replied to. And I'm just saying that this conversation which we've had today really would not need to have happened if the panel had responded to the request from Councillor Atterwill. Thank you.
Could I ask the chairman of the panel to respond, if you wouldn't mind, sir, please?
Sorry. It was certainly our intention, and we actually asked that every councillor was asked to make a contribution if they so wished. And certainly I do remember, I don't know this councillor, but I do remember receiving several very well argued cases. What we should have done, with the benefit of hindsight, would have been to have invited those individuals to come in to talk to us. That we didn't do, but we were also conscious of the fact that we needed to get this report done in a reasonable length of time. And if we could actually have had many more meetings, but it didn't seem necessary. So I apologise if we behaved badly.
I don't think anybody's accused you of acting badly, sir, but so Councillor Hewitt.
Just briefly, Chair, just pick up on something that I raised earlier on. I would like to remind all councillors in this room, whether you want to pontificate or not, it is down to your individual conscience as to whether you want to take an allowance and what you want to do with an allowance and what you believe that allowance actually relates to. Whenever this conversation happens, and perhaps for some it's an intentional thing to raise, I get frustrated because ultimately what the public will see of this meeting is not the good that we do as councillors. It's not our work in our communities. It's not our emphasis in making sure that our local residents and businesses can thrive. It's just people making a bit of a statement in terms of what they do or do not earn, and then looking over their shoulder and saying that you earn more than me, which I always find is rather sad and disappointing.
Thank you, Rob. You have a question for Chairman.
Yeah, apologies, councillors. Just to go back to the question Councillor Taylor posed a moment ago, if I may ask the chairman of the panel, in our current constitution it refers to childcare rather than carers allowance. In the recommendation it talks about carers / childcare. Can we just understand your intention? Is it to remain as cover for childcare or to include carers in other capacities as well? There's an inconsistency between the report and the Constitution, and I think it'd be useful to understand which of those two you would like. So to include carers in all capacities or just those in care of children?
It should be wider than just children.
Thank you, sir. He's been answered. Okay, so Councillor Borrett, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to remind Council why we have allowances, because, and it's something that have been campaigned for on the basis of fairness, because councillors didn't originally receive any allowances at all, and it was felt by some that only those who could afford to give up the time could stand for election and represent people on councils. And in order to make it more equitable and fairer across society, for those who perhaps didn't have the resources or a private income or the opportunity not to spend time at work should be able to be part of the democratic process. And therefore, allowances were considered an egalitarian option that opened up the opportunity to be involved in the local democratic process to everyone. Now, it could be argued that the less resources you have as an individual, the poorer you are, the more important your allowance is to enable you to create the space in your life to be to stand for election. So it isn't about fat cats and noses in the trough. It's about being fair. Now, the reason that we have an independent review panel is because we judge that councillors might be giving the impression, if they set their own allowances, that they were somehow acting in an element of self-interest. But to have an independent panel who looks at what they think would be a fair remuneration for somebody if they gave up their time to undertake these roles is a way of demonstrating that not only are allowances important, but they're also fair and set fairly by an independent group. Now, that's all we're being asked to do here today. And I am sad that it's got so heated, because I don't think that this issue, this is a universal issue about access to democracy. We have a report here from an independent panel, and I will be supporting it. And I hope all members do, because I think not to do that is cheapening our democracy. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, thank you. I'll go back to the original report. Are we going to take it on block? Is everybody happy to take it on block, and then we'll go to the recorded vote? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Anscombe. Councillor Ashby. Councillor Attewell. Councillor Bambridge. Councillor David Blackburn. Abstain. Councillor Borrett. Councillor Bowes. Councillor Brindle.
Abstain.
Councillor Clark.
Abstain.
Councillor Clausen. Councillor Cogman. Councillor Cowan. Councillor Crane. Councillor Eagle. Councillor Fraser. Councillor Gilbert. Councillor Harvey. Councillor Hewitt. Councillor Jermy. Councillor Kiddle-Morris. Councillor Kybird. Councillor Land. Councillor Monument. Councillor Morton. Councillor O'Callaghan. Councillor Plummer. Councillor Richmond. Councillor Suggett. Councillor Samantha Taylor. Councillor Sarah Taylor. Councillor Taylor Taylor. Councillor Terry. Councillor Turner. Sorry, 4. Councillor Webb. Councillor Wickerson. And Councillor Wilkinson.
4. Right, thank you, members. Your votes are as follows: for, 23 against. Was that 10?
No against these 3.
Sorry, 3 against and 10 abstentions. So this recommendation as carried. Thank you. Yeah. Chairman of the panel, thank you for your time today and being patient with us and the questions you've had. It is clearly an independent panel, so appreciate your time. Thank you. Off. Okay, agenda item 11, minutes for information only. And it was the Cabinet meeting, the 12th of February 2024, pages 66 to 73. Governance and Audit Committee minutes, 8th of February 2024, pages 74 to 86. Planning Committee meeting, 12th of March 2024, pages 87 to 92. Any questions on any of those minutes? No, thank you. Item 12 then, to receive nominations for changes to committees and any other seats. Councillor Soggett, could I ask you first if you have any, please?
I have, thank you, Chair. The Norfolk Investment Framework Steering Committee is no longer required, and we would wish for that to be removed as an outside body. And the other amendment is for Councillor Tina Cadell to be removed as a substitute on overview and scrutiny and to be replaced with Councillor Taylor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Clark, do you have any, please?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. On the Licensing Committee, Councillor O'Callaghan to be removed and replaced by Councillor Sarah Taylor. Thank you.
And Councillor Ashwell, do you have any, please?
Thank you, Chairman. None from my group, but could I just have some clarification from the Deputy Leader, please? At the members' briefing on the local plan, we were led to believe that the Leader is now taking on planning. Is it just the local plan, or is he going to be overseeing planning? And does that can you just clarify that, please?
It is just the local plan, what the Leader is taking. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors, for that. Item 13, amendments to the Constitution. I'm not aware of any. Item 14, I haven't got anything urgent to announce. But before I close the meeting, I would like to thank everybody who's taken the time to watch this meeting via YouTube. And I'd like to remind you all to pick up your high-vis vis when you go out, and the 2nd of April for the recognition of Breckland's 50th year. And I'd like to wish you all a safe and happy